You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers about hikers for everybody.
This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we hang out and talk about everything from hammocks and hammock camping to the group hangs from around the country. Hey everyone, welcome to the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we unwind, relax, and delve into all things hammock related. Join us as we swing into the world of hammocks, exploring tips and tricks for setting up that perfect hang, sharing stories of outdoor adventures, and discovering the latest trends in hammock camping and relaxation. Whether you're a seasoned hammocker or new to the art of hanging, this podcast is your cozy corner to kick back, escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and soak in the soothing atmosphere of the hammock culture. Prepare to be inspired, educated, and entertained as we embrace the hammock lifestyle together. So grab your favorite hammock, find that perfect spot to hang, and let's embark on a hammock-filled journey that will leave you feeling refreshed, rejuvenated, and ready to take on the world. This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where every episode is a breath of fresh air. Let's get started.
Howdy, hangers. Welcome to this week's episode of the Hammock Hangers Podcast. I'm joined by a very, very special and elusive guest this week. This week on the podcast, I would like to welcome Paul Collins, also known as Skunkape, back to the podcast. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, AJ. Thanks for that warm welcome.
You know,
it's been a while, buddy.
Just for you. It has. It has been a while. Just for the record, everybody, Paul has had some crazy witchcraft level of work schedule and has not been able to be with us. But, you know, miraculously, things kind of, the stars aligned, or should we say maybe the weather patterns aligned, and
that would be it.
Yeah. So
we have to have a major hurricane for me to get days off.
Minor details. Now, everybody, this is actually our second take at this episode. We actually tried to record 2 days ago during the hurricane, but my power was going out, lights were flickering, 50-mile-an-hour gust of wind. It's fine. Let's just say,
and that was all before the hurricane hit.
Yes, that was all before the actual eye hit. So, but I also would like to reach out to all the people that sent us messages. I even got phone calls and Facebook messages checking in on us and my HangCon crew and the site venue for HangCon. I would just like to say thank you for everybody that reached out. We are happy to report that myself, as well as Paul and the entire HangCon crew, did not sustain any major damage to self or property, anything worth writing home about. And this goes for both hurricanes that we've had in the last 2 weeks. It's fine. Everything's fine. Also, the venue, Florida Sands Music Ranch, did sustain a little bit more damage during Milton, but it was just a few fallen trees, and they had a little bit of structural damage to some of their sheds. But overall, they are in the process of re-energizing that camp, and we've been told that we should be good to go for HangCon in January. So thanks to everybody that reached out. We are A-okay.
So how did you fare during Milton, AJ?
Well, it was crazy windy here. Like the winds were really, really loud. We lost power for about 2 hours. One of the good things about where I live is it's a stone's throw away from one of the fire departments here in Citrus County. So we just assume, because that is a first responder kind of site, if power goes down there, they usually kind of are on the ball of getting that reconnected.
Right.
And so I just kind of benefit from that. So we only lost power for about 2 hours. Actually, we only lost power for 2 hours for both Milton and Helene. So
really, so we lost power like 10 o'clock. What Tuesday night, Wednesday night? What night did the hurricane come through? It came through Wednesday night, right?
Wednesday night, yeah.
Yeah, so it was about 10 o'clock Wednesday. We lost it. And it didn't come back on until yesterday afternoon sometime. So we were without it all night and most of the day. But we actually got luckier. We did have some damage to a few of our windows. Just the winds pushing them in and all that caused windows to leak, caused my doors to leak. But one of my neighbors lost over half of the shingles on his on the front of his house, and the neighbor to my other side, they actually had some of their windows pushed into the house.
Oh,
so
wow.
we done pretty good considering.
Yeah, you guys, even though you're significantly further inland than I am, you guys still got some crazy wind.
Oh, it was nuts, dude.
I want to say I read somewhere that there was maybe like 170 tornadoes kind of reported or seen across the state during the storm. So that's just mind blowing to me.
Yeah, there was something like 130 something or 140 something weather alerts or tornado alerts that went out.
That's crazy
throughout the state.
Now, we're finally starting to see a lot of people trickle back down south, kind of returning home from the evacuation. We chose not to evacuate, mainly because there's a little bit of science to evacuating from a hurricane. And I didn't know this till I moved down to Florida. There's actually a clean side and a dirty side to a hurricane. If like for us on the west coast of Florida, if you are north of the eye, that's called the clean side, because basically tornadoes rotate counterclockwise. So if
Hurricanes.
they are, what's that?
Hurricanes.
Let's say tornadoes.
Hurricanes.
They rotate counterclockwise. So you want to be north, well, on the west coast, north of them, because that means that the water is being pushed out from land. However, if you're south of the eye, that's when things get really, really bad, which happened to us during Helene. We were right under the eye, and that's when the winds and hurricane forces are pressing the water in. That's when you get the storm surge that everybody kind of attributes to most of the damage caused by hurricanes, at least on the Gulf Coast or any coast that comes along. We had
storm surge.
Yeah, the storm surge. We had in Crystal River, I want to say around 9.5 feet of storm surge. Where my house is, we didn't get any. We live a little bit higher elevation. However, my school did get half of the buildings did get flooded, and our entire middle school got flooded. But miraculously, through the work of the restoration teams that came in and kind of busting their tail for the last 2 weeks, we are able to get back into all of our buildings starting tomorrow. And all of our kids will be back in their classrooms on Monday. We're not having to ship kids to other schools. We just got that call today. And even our middle school, which had all just completely been shipped over to the high school. And that was, it was a hot mess. They were doing the best.
I bet it was.
It was a hot mess. They are back at the middle school as well. So that's great. I was really lucky in that my classroom did not flood. How? I don't know. I just really got lucked out. However, my wife's classroom did get about 6 inches of water.
Really?
She's in the other building, and so they took about 24 inches of drywall of every single classroom in our 100 building. And temporary fixes are up now. The whole remodeling process is going to, take probably to the end of the school year, but we've got enough temporary fixes in there that teachers can go back in. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, I go back to work on Sunday, and I'm curious as to how it's going to be down that way. Because I mean, as you know, I'm working down in Fort Myers,
Right.
and Fort Myers got hit pretty hard with the storm surge and everything. I think they had like 9 to 12 feet
Oh
of
wow.
surge down there.
Yeah, that was right under the eye.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I'm kind of curious as to how that's going to be down there, because everything that I saw on the news and all that, the Weather Channel, there was a lot of flooding down there. I know, what day was it? So we went down last Sunday, and worked, and then Monday we all came back home, and they were running out of gas down there on Monday at all the stations. There was cars lined up on on the sides of the roads. Off some of the main roads, the cars would just pull off onto the sidewalk and everything to turn into the gas stations. So it was a mess down there. Several days, a few days anyhow, before the storm even got close to us.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have like a huge evacuation from Florida, finding gas it's rough. It is rough. Even if you don't, like, even here in town, people are posting on Facebook even now, hey, who has gas? Because everybody is out.
Right.
So, but we've got something else going on next week though that I am actually really excited about.
What is that, AJ?
We and our Hang Kong crew, me and you are going to South Carolina to hang with our friends and family at Palmetto State Hangers Falls for All.
Falls for All, here we come.
It's one of the events that I look forward to every single year. It's always a really, really great time. A little bit of changes this year. Actually, same location. The kind of big major changes, the barbecue place that we go to every single year, it perished in a fire last, I think it was last Christmas. And so we're going to have to figure out something to do.
We're going to starve.
Oh, I'm sure we will not starve.
No, we won't starve.
We will not starve. We always eat really, really good. We have at least 2 Blackstones that we bring up, and we do a lot of really, really cool things. So one thing that I'm going to try this trip is Paul. We were talking in our round 1 of trying to record this podcast. You have never had an Oklahoma onion burger.
Nope.
So we will be remedying that, because in my honest opinion, and I'm always sometimes right.
Always sometimes
right. An Oklahoma onion burger may be the best way to eat a hamburger. I will die on that hill. It is wonderful.
I will let you make them.
All right.
And then I will give you my honest opinion on them. I'm good at giving my honest opinions on stuff.
Yeah. Whatever. Another thing that wasn't our original segue. So our original idea was, I said, I'm going to make you corned beef hash, but in the style of an Oklahoma onion burger. And this is something that I did over the summer that I discovered, because I'm the only one in my family that will eat the corned beef hash, and I'm the only one in my family that will eat onions, and I love both. And so I had some left over, and it just came to me, I wonder if this works. And it totally does. And it is flipping amazing.
And what are you calling it?
A smash hash. So we are going to be making some smash hash. And we're going to be hanging with a lot of our friends. I'm really excited to see people that I haven't seen since HangCon. Chad with the UGQ. I'm sure we'll run into Dutch. We have Steve Hazel from Hang Tight. And our good friend Corey Bleeker from Majestic Hammocks. Our good buddy that came over to Denmark with us. I haven't seen him since Denmark, so I'm really excited. Yeah. and also, getting to see Cackles and Fancy Nancy with Palmetto State, along with a lot of our other friends that are in South Carolina and various other places that come into this great event. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Me as well.
And if you're going to be joining us at Fall Sprawl, make sure you swing by and say hey. And I'm sure we'll be doing some podcast recording while we're there this weekend or next weekend. And actually,
it will be this weekend.
This episode will be going out while we were at Fall Sprawl. So
yeah. So yes, this weekend.
So yes, this weekend. It's fine. It's fine. Time travel here.
Dates are hard.
Yeah. So, yeah, I encourage, if you have the ability to hang out, it is $35 for the weekend, which again, for a camping event, is dirt cheap. If you're finding, something outside of just primitive packing in campsites for less than that, please let me know where they are. Cause I cannot find them. And you get great company. They've got a fire. The scene is on one of the lakes that they have out that way, and it's really, really nice. So yeah, come check it out at Santee State Park, October 17th through the 20th. So
plus they have their raffle.
Have their raffle. Yeah, they'll be selling raffle tickets, and a lot of their proceeds go to the Palmetto Camp Out, which is an event that they run. Well, they don't run. The South Carolina Parks and Rec, or they kind of run. They get families that aren't used to camping, and they kind of outfit them for a camping expedition. And so the Palmetto State, they come out and help run that event and talk to them about hammock camping. And that's actually how we got one of the families that came to HangCon this year. They were introduced to camping at the Palmetto State Camphouse. So really great event that they do there. And I'm really excited about it.
Yep. Can't wait.
And it's and also some really great news from HangCon Europe as well. We have a brand new location that we're going to be doing HangCon Europe in, still in Denmark, but it's only about 30 minutes outside of Copenhagen. And I actually talked to Lars today, and it is on the grounds of one of the royal palaces for the Danish monarchy. So how cool is that?
I need to see if, what we need to check on, AJ. We need to go up to Washington and see if we can have HangCon at the White House.
I will straight
That's what we need to do.
That's a negative, Ghost Rider. That is a negative. I was just there with this past summer or summer before last. That is a negative. I may be going again at the beginning of next summer with our school safety patrol, but that's a hard no.
A hard no.
The infrastructure in, I would even say we could totally do it in Copenhagen before we'd be able to do it in DC.
I'd probably rather do it in Copenhagen before DC. Man,
we love Copenhagen so much. So much. But that will be coming up in April. I want to say April 25th through the 27th is HangCon Europe with association with the Danish Outdoor Festival. They do some really great stuff over there, and they run a fantastic event. So go check that out as well. I also want to give a shout out to the Machiligan crew, as well as the Maha crew, for running two, from what it looked, really amazing hangs that they did here recently. I love seeing these really popular hangs popping up on various parts of the country, and I love seeing people get out. Both events looked really, really great. A lot of fun. Both hangs that are on Paul and I's bucket list. So
we need to make those happen next year.
We need to make those happen.
At least one of them next year, and then the following year another one. If not both of them next year.
Yeah, if I can only go to one next year, I may just make the commitment to Man, I don't know. I do want to definitely make out to one of those, if not both of them, next year. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but yeah. So, on to our episode. So, with the hurricane uh, having just passed and some really rocky and stormy weather that kind of rained out my last backpacking trip because I had planned on going out to Hidden Pond a couple weeks ago. Thank you, Helene. Um, we wanted to talk about maybe some gear that you would take and how to prepare for camping when weather could be kind of spicy. And I know I have hammocked in some pretty crazy and we'll say really, really spicy weather. Not to the point that I'm going out during a hurricane, but there have definitely been some times that I've gone through some crazy storms. How about you, Paul?
Yeah, quite a few times.
I think maybe the top three for me was let me think. Oh, my very first year that I went to HangCon. Uh, it was maybe the first year that they had the event at Doe Lake, and I'd gotten there later thinking that, oh, I can just go in and find a spot, close to my car. Yeah, that wasn't happening.
I think that was the same year that was my first year.
Yeah, I think I was I want to say 2015, around
15
that
or
time.
16. Yeah.
I had it was out past the main area, back into the past the fence into the field. If you've been to Doe Lake, you kind of know where it is. But I found like it was this really kind of larger open area, and there were three massively tall pine trees. Kind of just sticking up in this little open area. I'm like, oh, this will be a great opportunity. Oh, those trees aren't taken. I'll just go here. And it was a crazy, crazy storm that first night. And I was relatively new to hammock camping. I'd only probably been doing it maybe 9 months, and only had a few trips under my belt where I was kind of working out my system. But I mean, I stayed dry, but there was definitely thoughts of going through my head of work. This is where I'm going to die. What was your first crazy storm that you went through hammock camping?
Well, it was night. Let me think. Probably night 3 or 4 whenever I was doing my AT hike.
What? It rains on the AT?
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while.
But yeah, it was bad storm. I actually had hail coming down to the tornado touched down probably a couple of miles from where we were and everything from the shelter. It got pretty bad. It got really bad.
But you were hanging in the shelter?
No, I was out on the trees.
Oh, you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when I learned to put the sides down a little bit lower.
Yeah, I thoroughly. Yeah. I remember I was sleeping in my XLC, and I had my trusty Superfly, and I was really, really thankful for those doors that I had. I want to say we also rode out a kind of, I don't know, maybe you were with me on this trip. We were camping at Hidden Pond.
I've never been to Hidden Pond.
Oh, you've never been? Oh man. Well, I know Britt and I were on this trip. I think it was me, Britt, and Matt, and it came a crazy storm through there as well. And I want to say the probably number 3 on my biggest storms that I've ridden through. We were at Hungry Mother State Park. This has probably been, oh gosh, over 5 years ago. And we were at Hungry Mother, and for those of you that don't know, it's a state park in Marion, Virginia. It's right on the Appalachian Mountains. It's not too far from the AT. And there came this really crazy storm going through there, and the thunder would just completely roll down the mountain range. So if you heard thunder, it hit you like a wave, and it was lightning. It looked like a war zone going out there. And I was set up, and I'm pretty sure I was in my Superfly again. and I was, hunkered down. Like I was situated. I was dry. I was happy. And then it was like 9 o'clock at night. So it was pitch black, lightning going over it. And I hear, "Hey, Jay, the tent is leaking." So we were family camping, and my family was in our big old Coleman tent. And I just remember thinking, well, if we were all in hammocks, I wouldn't have to deal with this right now. I'm dry. What am I going to do? But yeah, so I ended up getting out and doing something. I don't remember what I did. Maybe doing an anti-rain dance or something. But yeah, we made it through
all you
there.
can do.
Yeah, it's really all you can. Yeah, I don't know what I was gonna. It's like I can't fix it. Actually, I think we all ended up going out and staying in the truck or whatever vehicle that we had at the time. I'm pretty sure I didn't have my truck to ride out that particular storm, but I was dry. I've never been wet in a storm. The only time that I got somewhat wet was we were at Grayson Highlands State Park, and it was raining, and my Superfly started leaking not because the tarp failed, because I had not seam sealed the pullouts on the side. So, I mean, it was leaking, but like we're talking like little drops. So I just kind of like pushed my arm and held my hammock in so it didn't get on my quilt.
Right.
But, I mean, it was just drops like every 2 minutes or something like that. But
yeah, there's been, I think, 3 times that I got wet, and not real bad either though. And that was at the time on the AT, and that was due to me having the sides up too high. Fall sprawl either last year or the year before, again, because I didn't pay attention to the weather.
The weather.
And had the both sides pitched up with in porch mode, and then a hell of a storm came. And then last year when I went up to McAfee Knob for that week, and I took the Ridge Runner and the tarp with the quarter doors. And keep in mind, most of my tarps are Cuban fiber. That one was not. I thought it was normal for all manufacturers to seam seal.
Oh.
Yeah, so it wasn't seam sealed. So
you gotta seam seal your tarps.
Yeah. You live and you learn.
But
see, I mean, some of them do. Like Jason. Anytime you order one from Wahala, I think he automatically seam seals it for you.
I think like UGQ, they have an option that you can either seam seal it or they'll seam seal it for you at no cost or something. But yeah, it's really not that hard to do. But it's just something that you don't think about.
Right. I just assumed that it was normal for it to already be seam sealed from factory.
I didn't really think about it till I had a little bit of leak, and I was like, oh, I should probably seam seal that. Although I think I looked online first and like, why is my tarp leaking? And like, oh, they're talking about seam sealing. Like, what? Well, what is that? But yeah. So normally, like with seam sealing, a lot of the manufacturers, like I know War Bonnet, the way they do their top ridge line, you don't need to seam seal the ridge line. However, if you order it with tarp pullouts,
yes,
you especially the external tarp pullouts, you need to seam seal those. They're just sewn on, and anytime you put needle to thread, and put it through, you're creating these little micro punctures.
So that's where mine was leaking from.
Yeah. So after you do that, you're really good to go. But I totally forgot to do that on mine too, and I got a little bit of drippage.
But again, like I said earlier, most of mine are Cuban fiber, which you don't need.
Gotcha. Yeah, I only have my one Cuban fiber, and I don't have a lot of experience with that. But yeah, so seam sealing is really really good. Keep yourself dry. I have found, like, for me, I've bought, or Warbonnet has sent me, some of the silicone paste that you can squeeze out and, kind of run it over with like an old toothbrush or something.
Mm-hmm.
I have found, like, they make this stuff. It's like window sealant, and it's almost in like a super glue kind of packaging. And it almost comes out like super glue. It's a little bit thicker than super glue, but not as thick as the paste. And
Mm-hmm.
it makes seam sealing significantly cleaner looking than having to deal with the paste. Now, I mean, I don't really care too much about how it looks as long as it functions. But
Right.
yeah, the window sealant seems to work the best and give you the cleanest end product when you're seam sealing your tarps.
I've seen and heard a lot of people that just get the clear silicone and cut it with
Mineral spirits.
it might be.
Yeah, I've seen that too. It takes a little bit more work than me. I wanted to. Just give me the stuff that I can just put it on.
Let's go ahead and put it on, huh?
I'll just put it on. It's fine. Everything's fine. But yeah. So now we've talked about tarps with doors and things like that. I would say most of my tarps do have doors in some cases. The only tarp that I use on a regular basis, and I don't even think they make it anymore. I have a Warbonnet Edge tarp, which is a basic hex tarp that Warbonnet used to make, and I use that really only in the summer, and only when I am not expecting any type of really torrential rain. I mean, a little bit of afternoon shower, that's fine. But if I'm really focused on weight and I'm not expecting any torrential rain, that'll be the tarp that I'm going with, because for one, it's stupid light. It's sil poly, so it packs down super small. And that's kind of like my go-to summer tarp.
Right.
Now, I do have like a big rectangle tarp that I take as well. Our Hancon tarps are rectangle, but you can kind of configure those to kind of bring in the corners to kind of create doors. Yep. And of course, I have a lot of just winter tarps. And, they say winter, but I use mine year round. It's just a matter of the coverage that it gives you. And I really like the winter tarps because it has full doors and that you can close all the way. And that really gives you the best coverage, not only just from rain if you're in a storm, but I've never camped in the snow, but I hear it's really great for blocking out a lot of the wind and the cold that you would get in some of these colder temperatures as well.
I bet. I mean, most of mine are winter winter tarps. I do have our Hancon tarp, and then I have the behemoth.
The monstrosity of a tarp.
The behemoth, yeah. Which I still love that tarp. That's one I'm gonna take to Palmetto State with me. Okay. But I don't think that it actually supposed to have doors, but the size of it and the tie outs where they are, you can have doors.
Yeah, because you kind of put that in that mode when we were in Denmark.
Yeah. Yep.
My wife really likes. She took my Dutchware Hexon super wide with us to Denmark, and she loved that. For one, just the size is, I mean, it's not as big as your behemoth, but we were able to put all of our luggage and all of our bags and stuff. I mean, she did put a lot of stuff in there, but she likes the doors to just be able to close off and get that privacy that she wants from like other people. And I hear a lot of people that really like those winter tarps because of the level of privacy that it does provide.
Right.
But I do like mine, and I will say every tarp that I will have from here on out will have some sort of tie out. Either
Oh, definitely.
even the tie out on the outside that you usually do with the kind of a pole mod, an external
Yep.
pole mod, or an internal pole mod for the inside. It makes a significant difference in just the lay of the hammock,
Right.
because you don't have to worry about the wind pressing the tarp into your hammock. It keeps everything nice and open. I do think, though, even though I have an internal and external tarps, honestly, I think I like the external pole mod even a little bit better than the internals.
See, with me, it depends. See, I love the internal with the behemoth.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't imagine what
But I
an
mean,
external
that's the
pole mod would
size
look like
of
for
it.
that one. Yes.
Huh?
I can't imagine what an external pole mod would even
I don't
look
even
like.
know if I really don't even know if an external would work well with
Yeah,
it because
I
of the
don't
size of
think
it.
it would.
But I like the external on our Hancon tarp.
Mm-hmm.
My next tarp that I'm going to get, though, is I'm going to get one from UGQ.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to talk Chad into making me one just like he made Stephanie
Oh,
Aaron's.
okay. Yeah.
That has the all the different pole mods, and then instead of snaps on the doors, he put a zipper so that you can
Mm-hmm.
just unzip it and open it.
Yeah,
On the
door
ends.
management is something that I've played with so many different ways of managing the doors, whether it be
Right.
timeouts, whether it be hardware or not. But I mean, that's one thing that I think I really liked that Jason with Walhalla does with his. He actually puts cam snaps on
Right.
his door, so you can just snap them, and I really like that. That way you're not having to worry about guy lines that I will just trip over them, as clumsy as I am. But yeah, I've tried lots of different options, and I think I found one now that I kind of like. It's just shot cord that I've used, kind of a mitten hook that I can just snap to
Right.
the guy line of the other door. And I just haven't outfitted all of mine, but for most of them I have outfitted, and it seems to work well for me. It's not, I'm not having to worry about knots. I'm not having to worry about this long kind of static line that's kind of rigid that I've got to try to step over and kind of maneuver. Also, with the shot cord, and when you're in heavy wind, it kind of gives you a little bit of give with your guy lines as well.
Yeah, that's really one thing you need when Cuban fiber tarps for all your tiles and stuff. Because the Cuban fiber tarps, they have no give. There's no stretch in them. And I've had one that, from tying it out and having it pretty rigid as I tie it out, after a while it actually starts trying to separate the fibers right around the tie out backing and everything. And you start getting little holes down there, and it'll just keep getting worse and worse. And that's because it's taut, and then when the wind blows, it's just sitting there pulling on it.
Right.
So you need to put some sort of shot cord ends or something like that on it.
I think I remember you telling me that when I first got my hammock gear, Cuban fiber tarp, and I was just because those things aren't cheap.
No.
And if you're investing so much money into something like that, and I was like, all right, I'm going to have shot cord on all of my tie outs. I'm going to have shot cord on the connection to my ridge line and stuff. So I don't know how tied down my tarp might be in a really, really, really heavy wind, because the shock cord may give so much that on all the whole tarp will just move. But yeah, I that's something that I definitely took on all mine. So you actually prefer the Cuban fiber versus the sil nylon or sil poly, correct?
Yeah, it depends on what I'm doing though. I mean, I like the Cuban fiber when I'm hiking, when I'm doing long hikes and stuff like that. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, because it is lighter. And two is, like whenever I was hiking the AT, you're constantly putting it up and taking it down. And when you take it down the next morning, you got to put it in your backpack and everything else. Well, with the Cuban fiber, if it rained that night, all you got to do is get up the next morning, hit it a couple of times, maybe get a towel, my little pack towel, wipe it down real quick, and it's dry again. Whereas the sil nylon or the sil poly, it holds some of that water, and so you're essentially packing it up with it still somewhat wet, and it's also going to hold some of that. With it holding the water, you're holding extra weight. It may not be a whole lot of weight, but when you're hiking all day, every little bit helps, to not carry.
I would say as far as water retention goes, Cuban fiber definitely is hands down the best as far as limiting that.
Right.
Outside of that, sil poly is going to be better about that than sil nylon.
Right.
Sil nylon actually does take on a lot of water, and I mean in a soaked sense, it just kind of holds on to it a little bit more than the sil poly as well.
Right.
But yeah, now something that I didn't know until I actually owned one myself was whereas sil or Cuban fiber is significantly lighter, probably about half the weight approximately, versus your sil poly or sil nylon. Cuban fiber or Dyneema does not pack down as small as a sil poly or sil nylon tarp.
Right.
So because it is significantly lighter, but it does not compress down to the size that you can get with a sil nylon or sil poly tarp. But the weight savings is there. The ability to not just shake water off and be on your merry way is good. Some other people, now this has never really bothered me, but one other downside that I think some people have talked about that they find annoying with a Cuban fiber or Dyneema tarp is it gets really, really loud when it rains. Is that something that bothers you?
I like that though.
See, yeah.
To me, it's like rain on a tin roof.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I like that.
I mean, I go to sleep every single night with like rain sounds anyway.
Right.
So, like that just. I've never had my Cuban fiber tarp out in a crazy rain, so I don't really know what that sounds like per se.
It is louder. I mean, I guess the if you're out in a major rainstorm or whatever, I guess the best way to describe it is get you a piece of Tyvek and just sit there and ball up the Tyvek, and that's roughly the same sound that you're gonna hear.
Gotcha.
So I mean, it can be loud, but I don't see it being annoying.
Yeah, I think it would just put me to sleep.
It does me. Yeah. Because you have that rain and it's hitting that, and then you got that slight breeze, and it's done.
Oh yeah, like
lights out.
Yeah, 100% every single time. Every single time. Yep. I remember when we were over in Denmark, we had just come back from lunch at that cafe, and it just started to rain, and we're all like hunkered down, and I get in my hammock, and I hadn't planned on taking a nap, but
I didn't either.
Man.
Yeah.
2 hours later.
Yeah, because we went when they were setting everything up, and then we got back, and it started raining, and I remember getting in my hammock and laying down And, I just don't wait a few until it stopped raining. Next thing I know, I wake up, it's not raining anymore. I get out and I go walking up to the front, and God, it's crowded. There's people everywhere. And
like we missed the whole festival.
yeah, right. Lord.
Now, kind of talking the difference between sil nylon and sil poly. Now, they're very similar. I would say kind of the biggest difference of going with one versus the other. If Dyneema is not in your price range, for a lot of folks, it isn't, because it is crazy expensive. But honestly, unless you are crazy focused on weight, a sil nylon or a sil poly tarp is still going to give you a lightweight option, right. And it's going to be significantly more affordable than a Dyneema tarp.
Right.
Now, between the two, because you do have to make a choice between the two fabrics, and I have both. Me personally, I prefer the sil poly over sil nylon for a couple different reasons. One, I think overall it's lighter, marginally. Two, it packs down smaller. And three, probably the biggest one for me is it doesn't stretch as much, especially when wet, as a sil nylon does.
Okay.
After a while, so my old trusty Superfly was a sil nylon, and
yep.
I'll notice that I do have to adjust my guy lines a lot more with that
yep.
after a rainstorm than I do with my sil poly tarps. So with that, why would I want a sil nylon versus a sil poly? A sil nylon tarp is going to be more durable in the long run than a sil poly will be, just because it does have that little bit of give. And kind of going back to the whole thing with the Dyneema, it gives a little bit of give. It's the fabric is a little bit more robust, so it's going to last you maybe a little bit longer, and it's going to hold up probably better in the long run. However, if you mean to throw your trekking pole outside of your tarp and the trekking pole catches on the door, doesn't matter what's going to happen. It's going to tear a hole in your door. A friend told me that.
No. Yeah.
A friend.
Yeah.
A friend told me that. Yeah.
A friend told you that?
Yeah. A friend that has not fixed that tarp yet. It's just on the door. It's just
tell him to just buy another one.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, Lord. That's funny.
Now, so tarps aren't the only thing that you can use to make sure that you stay dry in a storm. So one of the things that I get, super picky about, and only because quilts are not cheap, especially if you're buying, a really ultralight, really high fill power down, is, worrying about those quilts getting wet if you're in a storm where there's wind involved as well. And I don't care how low to the ground your tarp may be. That's just always a huge fear of mine, especially if I'm hiking, where getting that underquilt especially wet and then having a cold night and knowing that underquilt may not work because it gets wet. So if I am hiking, specifically hiking, usually car camping too, because I'm pretty picky about my gear, I will bring a underquilt protector to kind of go around the outside of that as well. Is that a piece of gear that you carry, Paul?
I don't even own a underquilt protector.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? You like to go unprotected. You like to raw dog those storms. I've made a few. They're really easy to make.
Yeah.
They're really easy to buy too, because a lot of manufacturers do make them. Dutchware, he sells them, as well as I think War Bonnet, they have their version as well, and you can buy them for both gathered in and bridges.
Gotcha.
But I've made a couple, and man, it takes that worry that $300-$400 quilt is not going to get wet. It is a weight penalty. Don't get me wrong, but man,
So I've just never really, I guess I've just never really worried about it that much because, I mean, if I know it's going to rain and it's going to storm hard, I drop my tarp as low as it will go. I mean, I'll only have maybe 6 inches, you know, of space between the edge of the tarp and the ground. And, just enough to get some ventilation up through, up under there. But, and the only time that I really ever got my quilt wet was last year before the fall sprawl, when I screwed up and left the tarp up both sides in porch mode. And that's when my quilt got soaked.
Now, but just for the sake of the audience, did that ruin your quilt?
Oh no. Oh. I just let it dry.
Let
it dry, and once it was dry, you had the clumps,
right?
And I just sat there and shook them out, and then reshifted everything.
Now, did you have any instances on the AT where you had to worry about wet down?
No, because again, I would always pitch fairly low. I mean, even that night that I told you about, like night 3 or 4, it started to blow up under, and it was getting, a little damp, and I just got out and tightened everything down a little lower. So, I mean, it didn't get soaked.
I think
I was fine.
For me, that's probably one of the bigger advantages, I think, to a gathered in hammock versus a bridge is with a gathered in, I can get my tarps and I can make adjustments where it is really almost straight down and almost hugging the ground.
Right.
You can't do that as easily with a bridge hammock.
Right, because of the spreader bars.
Right. Being able to get in to the hammock and set things up. Now, I have ridden out storms in my Ridge Runner just fine. But I was also using tarps that were significantly bigger.
Right.
Than when I have my gathered ins, I can easily and happily use an 11-foot tarp. For any of my bridges, comfortably, unless I have my Franken Ridge Runner that I've made, it definitely has to be at least a 12, if not a 13-foot tarp.
Really?
Yeah. Just because I don't like, I have drip lines, which we can talk about those here in a second. But because of the suspension triangle running out, I need just a little bit of extra length to that. So if the doors are there, I can close the doors. And if I have water running down, I usually just take some cotton shoelace, which honestly, that's the only piece of cotton gear that I have in any of my camping stuff at all is my drip lines. And I'll just take a piece, fold it in half, larks hit it around the suspension. And what that does is when you're talking about rain or a storm, you're going to get water and stuff on your lines. And eventually that water is going to run down that line. And unless you've got a drip line or a water break, that water will run down your lines and get either your hammock or your quilt or both wet. But that cotton drip line catches that water and it just directs it straight down to the bottom, so it drops off your line instead of dropping on your gear that you're in and hopefully trying to stay dry.
Yep.
But so I hope that some things that we talked about today can help somebody else stay dry in a nice little storm. One thing to take note is look at tarps with doors that protects you a little bit more than the ones that don't. There's also manufacturers that do hammocks, or I'm sorry, tarps with half doors or quarter doors as well. For example, the Warbonnet Thunderfly and a Mountain Fly and Mini Fly that they do. I think that was kind of the first ones that I had seen on the market. In my opinion, the Mountain Fly by Warbonnet is hands down the best tarp for a Tensor 4 stand. If you own a Tensor 4, a Mountain Fly or a Thunderfly is the perfect tarp for the Tensor stand.
Why is that?
I like the quarter doors if I'm using my Tensa, just because it's significantly easier to get in and out of the shelter versus the full doors. And again, I've ridden out some crazy storms in my Tensa 4 when we were in Colorado, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And even with the quarter doors in, I was still able to close them enough that I stayed perfectly dry. And we're talking a good 40, 50 mile an hour gust coming from the sides. And stayed nice and dry.
Yeah.
Stayed nice and dry. And it's, like I said, it's a lot easier to get in and out of the hammock when you just have those quarter doors.
Gotcha.
But
gotcha.
So look at doors. Then ask yourself, hey, what material do I need for my hammock? If weight is a big, huge factor, then you definitely want to go with a Dyneema. It doesn't get any lighter than that. You are sacrificing some of the compactability and maybe some of the durability that you would get from a sil nylon or a sil poly, but weight-wise, you're not going to be Dyneema. If you're looking for something that doesn't soak up water, Dyneema is also the way to go. However, if budget is a factor in your choice, definitely a sil poly tarp is going to be kind of the best of both worlds. It's going to give you a lightweight package that's going to absorb significantly less water and give you a little bit more durability. As far as you don't have to be as careful with your gear with sil poly versus Dyneema. And also, it's quite friendlier on your pocketbook than the Dyneema would be.
Right.
But if you're looking for max durability and things that you can just throw around that are going to compact a lot smaller, then sil nylon really is your way to go. Just realize that with the sil nylon, it does hold water slightly, and it does stretch quite a bit, especially when it gets wet. So just some things to consider. And finally, we talked about underquilt protectors. I am a huge fan. I think they are a great piece of gear to just have in your pack, and it's one of those you don't need it till you actually need it. And but Paul over here has never used one, and he's not on team underquilt protector, but yeah, so different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I'm just never worried about them.
I guess I'm neurotic that way. I worry about everything.
Oh, Lord.
But yeah.
No.
So that's going to wrap it up for this week of the Hammock Hangers podcast, Hurricane Milton edition, we'll say. So we really looking forward to hanging out with everybody in South Carolina and looking at the weather.
We have Cal's birthday this
weekend,
we did too.
Yeah, Cal from Yobo. Yeah, so if you see him at Fall Sprawl this weekend, make sure to give our Happy Pineapple a nice happy birthday for his birthday.
Poor Cal.
We love you, Cal. So if you're at Fall Sprawl this weekend, come by and say hey. Love to meet you, and we're happy to see new friends and old friends, and it's going to be a great time with some incredible camping weather. You know, lows down in the mid 40s, upper 50s, high.
Is that what it's going to be? You've already checked it?
Yeah, I've already checked. I've been watching
What are the highs going to be?
The highs are like in the mid 60s, low 70s.
I'll say that's perfect.
There's only like a 4% chance of rain, completely different than the crap factory that we've got during the last few weeks here in Florida. So, man. So we're looking forward to seeing that, and come by and say hey at Fall Sprawl, and we still have raffle tickets available for early purchase. Super early bird special on our raffle tickets up into October 31st on our website, where our super early bird special is you get 7 tickets for $25 instead of the usual 5. So make sure that you take advantage of that sale. We'll be going on till midnight on October 31st. And as always, make sure that you register for HangCon and look out for a lot of really great things that we have, both with HangCon and the Hammock Hangers podcast. So until next time, happy hanging, everybody.
As we gently sway out of another Hammock Field episode, we want to thank you, our wonderful listeners, for hanging out with us on the Hammock Hangers podcast. We hope that you have found relaxation, inspiration, and a renewed sense of connection to nature through our discussions. Remember to keep that hammock spirit alive in your daily life, whether it's by taking a few moments to unwind in your own backyard oasis, or by planning your next hammock adventure in the great outdoors. Embracing the tranquility, embracing the simplicity, and never forget the joy that comes from simply hanging around. Before we part ways, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date with all things hammock related. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for the Hammock Hangers Podcast. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to hang with you again on our next episode. Until then, stay relaxed, stay adventurous, and keep on hanging those hammocks high. From all of us here at the Hammock Hangers Podcast, we wish you peaceful hangs and endless relaxation. Thank you for tuning in. Happy hanging, everyone.